And I need a friend, I need a friend, somebody.
We could all use a friend. It's Monday, and that means David Begnaud has another story about the power of human connection, and it begins with a young ghostwriter who creates family heirlooms, books about the life stories of everyday people. David discovered how one profile led this Louisiana writer to an unlikely friendship.
In this tiny building on the bank of a Louisiana river, the secrets of scores of people are kept tight in the care of Olivia Savoie. She's a ghostwriter who has written life stories on behalf of 50 people and preserved them privately in little books.
Whether I've interviewed a farmer or a philanthropist, they all have a story that's invaluable to their family.
Stories can be passed down. That's how it's been done. Why a book?
So, over time, our stories get lost. If I ask you to tell me a story about your great-great-grandfather, you might not know any. Like, do you know how your grandparents met?
I do not.
So that's why a book, I find, it's a way to safely store memories over time. And photographs, we curate their most cherished photos too, so that they're never lost.
Only close family get one of very few prized copies. We know only a few things about them. One man who adopted 5 children commissioned a book from Savoie so he could read it to his wife as Alzheimer's slowly took her away. Dan's book was placed in his wife's casket because that was a final wish from her. We do know all are about people who toward the end of their lives let their guard down. To tell this 29-year-old writer what made them, what mattered, mistakes and all.
Does your work give you an appreciation for age?
My work makes me not afraid of age at all, and definitely appreciate it and the wisdom that comes with it.
And that is where 86-year-old Fred Volman comes in.
He didn't want a life story book, but his children did. So he humored them, and he met with me, and I wasn't sure how that would go, because in the past, everyone was always so eager to sit in on interviews, and he wasn't so excited about it.
Fred is a retired businessman, an avid pilot still, who played football in college. A father of 5, he lost his first wife to cancer, then remarried, and together there are 33 grandchildren.
And he shocked me, because within minutes of meeting him, it's like his resolve just melted away. And I felt like we had known each other for so long.
And how long ago was that?
4 years.
In 4 years, Olivia and Fred have developed their own story, and it is one of an unlikely friendship.
We talk a lot, and I've become interested in her entire family. When she got pregnant, she told me she was pregnant. I watched the baby, and she has 2 children now and a wonderful husband. And we follow each other, not on a daily basis, but very often telling of, things that are happening to us, what's happening good, what's happening bad.
In writing her books, Olivia sometimes receives written reflections from family members. One came from Fred's son, Willie, and it turned out to be extraordinarily special.
I didn't tell you at the time that what Willie sent me was so different than what I've ever received from anyone, because it was so poetic and so beautiful and so just singing you praises.
You see, Willie died suddenly, jogging. That was a year after Olivia finished Fred's book. And Olivia had something that only a grieving father should have.
It felt like a living eulogy. It was that profound. It was poetic. It was beautiful. And I remember receiving it and thinking, wow, Fred's as great as I believe him to be, according to his son.
David, I might not be able to read the whole thing.
It's okay.
I'm a sentimental person.
Read what you can.
I remember him as always being the smartest man in the room. I remember him as being generous without hope of reward. I remember him as someone who doesn't let discomfort get in the way of obligation. I remember him as a stern but loving dad.
It is in sharing what is so deeply personal that they now say has cemented their friendship.
I think both of us know that age is just a number, and we had a connection and things in common, and we cared about each other, and so why not be friends?
There's something about you that I think finds older people more interesting.
Yes. Most of my friends are north of 60. Since I was a little girl, I'd go to nursing homes and play the harp.
Olivia believes that her special friendship with Fred is a story that needs to be heard.
So I wanted to write about how two people who seemingly should have nothing in common can become friends. I wanted to explain how we just had a connection, a bond, how we shared in each other's joys and each other's sorrows, had a few common interests, and just became friends.
Olivia Savoie, the ghostwriter, keeping the human spirit alive.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, Olivia writes these books in the first person, so it's as if the story subject is telling their own story. And that's why she's got to spend hours with these people to get their voice down, to know how they would talk, so she can write what she calls a family heirloom that is left with their descendants.
Well done once again, David. I have to ask, have you thought about doing a book with her because of what you've learned? But more importantly, is there also a sweet spot where she thinks people should consider a book like that after they've lived X amount of years?
Yeah, good question. I've thought about doing it for my parents. It's not cheap, by the way. It's between like maybe $8,000, $40,000. But I'll say this, if it's a budget that you can't afford, you can always get an iPhone, you can prop it up on something, and you can get an oral history on video. I think it's so important to preserve these memories for future generations.
Yeah.
No doubt.
The older gentleman there said, I'm a sentimental person, but I think when we watch these stories, David, you make us all realize that we're sentimental people.
No doubt.
That's the reality of it. We all are loving, thinking, feeling human beings, and you connect that all around the world. So thank you very much once again.
Well done.
Great job,
You
David.
got it, brother.